Hello, my name is Chris Wilmuth, and I'm with the Pulling Around Show. Today we are in Boise, Idaho at the Pocket. And I'm here with Wayne and Heather, and they're the owners there. How long y'all been here?
As owners?
As owners.
About 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
How long has the Pocket been here?
The Pocket has been here for 42 years.
42 years.
It opened in January of 1980.
So 43, I guess.
Oh, 43 years. My math is bad.
So, probably the oldest pool hall. For sure.
It's probably the oldest in Boise. I don't really know about that so much, but I do know a pretty good history of the Pocket because I've been here for 23 years.
Okay. So I'm interested to hear that.
Yeah. So initially the Pocket started out as a chain in, I believe it was Missoula, Montana, and they were all called the Corner Pockets. So they came down from Montana and they went to northern Idaho, and there was one in Coeur d'Alene. I think it's called Patty's now. They all have the basic floor plan. If you walk into one, you're like, holy crap, this looks just like this other one. They went to Idaho Falls, Twin Falls, Pocatello, Boise, I think had 2 of them. They went to Caldwell. I've heard rumors of them being in California. Personally, I've seen them as far as Pueblo, Colorado. And they all look pretty much the same, but they all got sold off individually in the early 80s and changed names.
Did COVID affect this place at all?
It did in a way. We were very fortunate because we could still sell food. So under the Idaho statutes of whatever at that time, we were not able to be open to the public. The public couldn't come in here, but we were able to serve to-go food. And then the Idaho State Liquor changed their law for specifically COVID and allowed us to sell drinks that were bottled as long as they were not able to be opened. Like you couldn't, they had to be sealed.
Right.
So we were able to stay afloat with mostly food and then some beverages to go.
So what got you into wanting to be in the pool business?
Well, initially I just needed a job. I was like 26 and I was a single mom and I just needed a job. I answered an ad in the paper, which is, that's dating me for sure. But I got hired on the spot and I was supposed to be part-time. I ended up being full-time closing like 6 nights a week because in the bar industry, there's a lot of turnover typically. So then I just kind of stayed and worked my way up a little bit and became, just became part of the place.
Gotcha. Fixture.
Well, and as far as me, like I used to come here way back in the day. I used to come like once a year, but it was while they still allowed smoking in the place. And then in 2011, Boise City implemented a ban citywide on bars and nightclubs that were open to the public, and they were not allowed to have smoking. And so I started coming in here regularly then because I loved that I didn't have to, have emphysema for a week after I came play the pool. And so I used to come, and we used to come like almost every Friday night, me and some friends from work or family or whatever. And then, one thing led to another, and Heather and I, our situations changed. And about 5 years ago, we got together, started dating, and blah, blah, blah. And we've been married now for 4 years. And the previous owners had talked for some time about eventually retiring, and it finally got to that point where they kind of lost interest and were getting ready to, look on to the next part of their life. And we, had lots of long discussions about, what the terms and conditions might be, and finally found an arrangement that seemed suitable to everybody. And so as of April 1st, we took ownership of the business. They still own the property. We're leasing the property from them.
Awesome. So, as far on the pool side, what do y'all do to promote the pool?
So we used to have all the Pockets came with Montana tables, Montana billiards tables.
It's like it's like a knockoff of Brunswick as far as the appearance of the table.
So when we were closed down in 2020, because we were closed down for a few months. And we used to have carpet on the walls, so we took all the carpet off, and then we put all this pretty wood up there, and then we got diamond tables, and we replaced all the Montana tables. And so we felt like that was a big promotion for pool playing just in itself, because the equipment was no longer broken. The Montana tables over time, since the company had closed quite some time ago, there was no way to repair the tables. You couldn't get replacement parts, and there was no way to just make them any better. They were never level. The rails were always broken, and it was very difficult. We have a lot of really good players in the valley, and they just there were a lot of complaints about it. So we fixed all of that, got all new tables, and then when we became owners, we got all the 9-foot switched out. But we try to promote pool. I like to promote the women's pool the most. That's really super important to me. We have big tournaments several times a year. We had a big women's tournament last year and had April Larson. We had Mel Huang. A lot of, high profile players.
Yes, April came from Texas to come and play in our tournament. Yeah. So
we had a couple gals. Michael and her friend came from Ohio.
Yeah, Michael James.
Play. That was fun.
There's a girl who lives in Denver where she's going to have her 14th surgery. Melissa Little. She was a tour pro there for a while. Talked to her the other day, and she said, "You can interview me, but wait till after my surgery, like they can see how I'm doing." And she goes, nice. "I'm going to be back stronger than ever."
Nice.
Stories about the place. Has this ever been a real hot spot for road players?
We have had some people come through. We have some road. Yes.
Well, we are very fortunate that there is an amazing density of high level players that just live around here. Back on our wall, we have a thing called the local legends, and there's pictures of these folks. We've got world champions, people in the Pool Hall of Fame, and players who've played here for a long time, and some of whom don't mind playing for a little bit in the middle. And so there's been players come through, and they still come through, and there'll be a few, high value games matches that go on from time to time.
Oftentimes when we run our big tournaments, we've got one coming up at the end of July that a lot of people are coming to. People in the 700s, Fargo range. We had one of our locals, his name is Josh Smith.
Smitty.
And he gets a lot of action from road players. They like to come and challenge him.
Then
we have King Santy.
King Santy.
And he also likes to have he likes to play a lot.
Yes. He has enough expendable income to make it interesting.
They have some fun games.
Yeah, I looked on Fargo and with this area, and Josh Smith from Idaho is the only name that pops up.
Yeah.
He's the top dog here. He's our local pro. We love him. But we have a lot. We have some people that have been in the Pool Hall of Fame.
Roger and Kim
Roger and Kim have been inducted into the Pool Hall of Fame.
And then you got people that fly below the radar. People like Jerry Kirk, who's been playing pool for way long time. And what's interesting is we have weekly tournaments here, but they're not handicapped. They're just straight races. And so on Monday night, we have a 8-ball tournament. And on Thursday night, we have a 9-ball tournament. And you don't know if you're going to play a guy that just started playing pool last week, or you may run into Roger Anderson. And so you have no idea what's going to happen. And it makes it an interesting dynamic for folks that come here that, playing on really good equipment and occasionally playing really good players. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, we have Janice Ogawa. She's, I think, 7-time national champion. Just some really incredible pool players here. Charles Cosgrove, he was telling me a story about him and Dan Louie.
Yeah. Dan came through when they were both back in their 20s, and they played some money games. And Charles had to
Go to the bank the next
go
day.
to the bank the next day because they played
We
till
didn't mind 'cause
4
he's such
o'clock
a
in the
nice
morning.
guy, you know, both of them are such
Oh,
incredible
speaking of
nice
which,
people.
Dan is making arrangements to come play in our tournament. That's
Yeah.
at the end of July. So
Yeah.
hopefully he makes it here.
So what's the particulars on the tournament?
On this tournament,
Yeah,
it is.
entry fee and
Yep, it's an open division, and we have a women's division, and then we have a Scotch doubles. So the open division is obviously it's open to anybody, and that one is $75. And then the women's division is $60, and the Scotch doubles is $80, so $40 each. And we're adding $3,000.
To split up amongst the three events. Or?
Yeah, so we'll put 500 into the Scotch, and then what was it 1,500 into 1,500 into the women's, and then 1,000 into the men's. Does that make three?
Three.
Then yes, that is right. I like to add. I don't know. I just like to promote the women's a little bit more. So
Right. Y'all ever do or have you done a one pocket tournament yet? Since you got the
we had one pocket tournament so far. We're trying to get a big one going off this fall. I think Russ Zorn is looking for September for that one. I'd have to get my notes to look on that.
I just heard the other day that one pocket was invented in Oklahoma.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you-
Nice.
That's how you find out stuff.
We,
Stories.
yeah.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
have a lot of one pocket players.
I like the game, I like playing pool. You know, I hadn't played a lot since the accident, but I miss it. I do.
Yeah.
I bet.
Let's see. So speaking of Fargo, what's your take on it? You think it's hurt the game? You think it's helped?
I like information, so I think anything that gleans information for people. You know, I don't know exactly what their algorithm is,
No one does.
but for a number of years before we used any kind of Fargo handicap, I took note of. I tried to make a little spreadsheet of all of the tournaments and who won and who, you know, and just try to categorize the players as, you know, as from like top to not top. And I did that for about 4 years, and then the Fargo system, we were kind of introduced to that by.
It is. You know, it's like excuse me, like any system. You know, it can be manipulated.
Sure.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I've seen that too. I've seen that in competition, and it really
Yeah.
sucks.
And
I
for
don't
me,
like
one of
that.
the things that I don't really care for is, and I don't know anything about the people who run it or anything, but the Salado concept where you and me can go down here and we can play a match and then we both report it to Fargo. And I think that has on occasion been used to evil intent just because you can pad something by playing somebody.
It did, but now they don't accept single matches.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
That's good.
That
As far as like the system itself, you know, if you don't want to just play straight races, you have to have some method or means to come up with the guidelines on who ought to get what advantage. And I know sometimes people will go to a tournament where Fargo rate is implemented and they'll play a match and like, oh, person didn't play like a 550. They're more like a 700. Well, okay, but that just means that one day they were playing good or you were playing badly. And I know that there are certain tournaments where you have to have a certain robustness before you can play. And that's part of what hedges against the, you know, okay, I've had 16 games, but I'm a 600 or I'm a 350. But I overall, I think it has made great improvements in the way handicap tournaments are run.
everybody uses it.
If they would
then everybody
just,
can be on the same page.
if they would just accept it instead of looking for an excuse every time they lose. I just think that's a bad policy.
I think
probably
also
not the
they need
system.
to work on how to rate a first-time player who's never
That's
been
a tough one.
into.
I agree.
You know what we used to do. There used to be a guy that was around here. His name was Jody DeRoost. Everybody called him Rooster. And what he would do to find out what somebody's true skill level was is he would have them play, you know, some matches like the Ghost, you know, and then he would play against them and he would just kind of, you know, rate them, you know. And I think before somebody just decides like, oh, well, this person's like a 400, you know, where they're actually like, they've been playing for a number of years and they're probably not a 400. They're probably a little bit higher. You know, and I know a lot of people in league positions of power in their league have started people off. It's lower to help them get through a bracket where they shouldn't have because they're a beginner, or they're, you know, I think there's room for improvement on that.
So do y'all have APA here?
We have APA, we have BCA, we have VNEA,
Just about.
Yeah.
just about.
We
So I
we
feel-
don't have APL.
I feel like that
Some
APA
others.
might have had a little to do with maybe the Fargo ratings being like, so, you know, like Fargo 9-ball, you know, we're a 1,
Sure.
somebody the 1 only has to make 14
Yeah,
points.
yeah.
But somebody that's a 9 has to go to 75.
Yes.
Right.
You know, so I think maybe Fargo took some of that into consideration to,
As far as like their starting point.
yeah.
Hey, Jimmy,
Yeah,
Wayne
I
fixed
played-
table
I
3
played in
and table
AP
7.
for a
They're both
couple of
working now.
seasons. I like that they help bring new players into the game. I really think that's their great claim to fame. There's a couple things I wish that they would teach a little bit more about etiquette, because sometimes that doesn't translate. I wish they would teach a little bit more about safety play, because if someone plays too many defensive shots, their rating goes up, and it's almost like they're punished for playing smart pool. But as far as the rating system, you know, I watch players who stay in APA for 6, 7, 8 years, and now they're up in the 7 and they're in the 8, and they almost never get to play because they have, you know, a certain maximum number of skill points you can, and so it gets a little weird because now they just think they're the big fish in this little pond, and they don't really advance. And then I see some other folks who play APA still, but then they come and they start playing in our weekly tournaments, and they start playing against players that are better than them. And then they start learning the etiquette, and they start learning the defensive play. And so it rounds them out a bit. And, you know, I think each has its part as far as helping people come into the game.
So is there a place, I mean, is there a way, I know y'all's 21 and up,
Yeah.
but is there a way here to get kids involved?
Yeah,
You know,
that's a really good
The
question.
mall. So Ellis Amusement put in, I think it's called Ellis Amusement still. They put some pool activity places in the mall. So there's 3 little spots that have, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 tables that that young people can go into and just play. The mall closes at 9 o'clock, I think. I don't know, 10 maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how long those are open. That's really about
For-
it.
for-
Unless you go to
for
a bowling
us,
alley.
It's a matter of the Idaho liquor laws, where
Yeah.
our food sales would have to be something like 40% or more
Right.
of our revenue in order for us to allow anybody in at any hours that
Oklahoma's
was
pretty
underage.
similar, unless they classify. If they classify it as a pool hall, it doesn't matter how much food or how much liquor they sell.
I
Oh,
see.
If
wow.
it's classified as a pool hall, then minors can come in.
Interesting.
If they classify it as a restaurant,
Interesting.
then they have to sell more food.
Oh,
than
interesting.
liquor
We're classified as a bar.
as a bar.
Yeah.
Right.
If we were classified as a restaurant, then we could have minors in here. But
If-
in
if
the
we-
years that
yeah.
I've been here, the only time that we ever classified as a restaurant was during COVID. So that was,
When no one could come in,
and then you
they
couldn't
could
come in anyway. So
They also make it to where if they do serve food and they want to let minors, if they classify it as a pool hall and they don't serve food, then they have to have a rails.
Sure.
Oh, right, like a
no one
separate, yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond this point.
Yeah.
But I know that like where we're at, we live just north of a town called Lawton, which is where Fort Sill's at.
Okay.
And they really promote the junior league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They try to. I don't think there's that many kids that are playing, but there's a few. And then every year he tries to take them to, I guess, Indiana to play in the junior nationals. just-
Okay.
That's really
Just to
cool.
help them promote. You'll have somebody, I guess this Josh, would he be considered as house pro
Unofficially.
unofficially?
Yeah.
I would certainly say so.
I mean, to where he could, come in here and, as a second job and come in here and teach pool. And give
We have a
lessons.
lot of people that instruct lessons.
We have a
Actually.
few people who do give instruction. Alex Vogel
Yep.
is involved actively in giving instruction. There's a gentleman named Jason Miller who actively gives instruction to people. Lee Salinas, who lives nearby and plays here during the daytime, will give lessons to people or just share his knowledge without even caring about the pay. So it is a very open sharing community as far as like that side of it
Some
here.
lessons are available.
They are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one day I would like to see it be more of an official thing where we had somebody who would have certain time slots and then we would promote it. That's on my list of 300 things that I want to do in the next year or two. That's on the list.
You gotta get the herd list first.
I
Oh
mean,
my gosh, my list will never stop. Mine
her
just
list,
keeps growing,
her list
so.
is mostly on the food and beverage side, and my list tends to be concentrated on the finance side and on the pool side because that's where my passion is.
Yeah, I think I've asked all the questions I want to. I know that we both want to try a burger or something while we're
Oh yeah, our food is really
The
good.
burgers are really good. They make their own
Mhm.
recipe on that.
And then we're gonna, I guess, if anybody will let us just kind of video and shoot and pull.
Oh yeah,
Unless we video her kicking my tail.
yeah. No, that's
And,
cool.
And then if you got a jumbo shirt, I want a shirt.
Yeah,
What size?
3X.
I might have a 3X. I might.
we just got a new batch of shirts. A friend of mine who does graphic
I'm not
design
tall enough. Let me.
has created a updated.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You want to tell them where you're located, and then
Yeah, it's 1487 North Curtis Road, right off the connector, just by Fairview and Curtis.